Hello there, people and listeners of the Hungry Podcast. Today, I am super excited to welcome Jack Scott onto the podcast. Jack is the co-founder of Dash Water, who have won a whole heap of listings. Sainsbury's, Selfridges, Whole Foods Market, Planet Organic. I think pretty much loads of listings in the UK, and are now flying the flag in Australia, which I'm super excited to explore. And yeah, thanks for having us at Wonky HQ, mate. It's nice being in the Peach Room.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Big fan of the Hungry Podcast, so appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
No, all good. So, I think I told you this before, but the podcast you did with Holly Tucker,
yes,
was amazing. And she, I think I'll put a link in the show notes for listeners. But the question she asked at the end is, please write a letter to your younger self. Anyway, so I was walking around Bushy Park. I sometimes need to go on these walks to just keep my head sane. And honestly, I was listening to it, and like the sun was coming down. It was that sort of the autumnal kind of breeze going through. I was like, oh my god! Like some of the things you said, it's not even. It is blowing smoke up the arse, but it's not meant to be blowing smoke up the arse. But you said some things that really spoke to me, and I'd love to kind of pull and tease out some of them to begin with. So. I probably should play this, but anyway, but you say, dear younger me, first of all, it's important to say, don't worry if you find life complicated or hard. 20 years on, it's very much a work in progress. It's one thing you said, which spoke to me deeply. And then you said, never forget what your beautiful mum says. Don't worry, it'll be all right after a good night's sleep. Do business through the way you think is right. Dreaming, planning, creating are the most joyous of all. Confidence is your secret weapon, and have faith in creativity and your vision and your unique value you bring to the world. Wow, mate. And I'll put a link for listeners, so I think it's beautiful. I think the first thing, I'm a mummy's boy, right? Yeah. Through and through. I mean, she even dropped me to the station today, which is embarrassing. I'm 30 years old.
Very good.
How do you think your relationship with your mum has made you a stronger leader at Dash?
Yeah, it's very funny writing those letters. It's not something that you do, but it's great to reflect a little bit. We're a very close family. I've got two brothers, so my poor mum has got three boys to deal with. She's one of those people who's just like completely devoted to us and would do anything for us. And that compassion and the values that she has, I think definitely is something hopefully that, you bring to, the family here at Dash. You really do care about the people that are part of your team. And I think those core values really are important for leadership and creating something special.
I think when things are going Pete Tong in my life, my mum's the first one I'll call. What's been the darkest moment where you've called your mum, and what advice did she give you?
Yeah, so I said in the letter that mum's always very good at, which is definitely a thing that I think about when I'm having a tough day, say a Dash. It's very simple, but she'll just say, look, Jack, just think about it in the morning once you've had a good night's sleep. And that just works so well for me. And I almost think that as a bit of a challenge when something as bad is going on, that it's all part of the journey. And that's my sort of hack. And it's like, it's not meant to be easy. And, having a good night's sleep, and that when you wake up in the morning, you must get this as well. The clarity of thought is back. Whereas, the evening before, when it's dark outside and you've had a long day at work is not the time to be worrying about things. So I think a good night's sleep is as simple and as obvious as it sounds is advice that I take on board from mum. And that's been from a very, early age.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like the founders can be quite trigger happy. I'm quite trigger happy. I was like, I need to sort something out. It's creating this space. There's a quote by Viktor Frankl, who did the in between stimulus and response is space, and in that space is your freedom, something like that.
Yeah.
I think when there's so much going on, it sounds kind of trite that the best advice to have a good night's sleep, but it so is.
Yeah.
And I think what you said there is like, it's part of the journey, and wonky. The journey is not linear. It's hopefully linear, but it is wonky. And I think these little moments backwards push you forwards. What has been the moment on the journey where you've thought like you've needed to have a really good night's sleep with lots of sleep?
I think that I think earlier on it was more difficult, because when it was just Alex and I, in my kitchen, you don't have anything to celebrate. You understand that what you're trying to do is really ambitious and that it might not work. So those are like really difficult times. There's nothing to celebrate. There's nothing to really get behind. So those I see as the sort of the most difficult days. I mean, an example is when we were manufacturing, we wanted to create 300 or 400 cans as like prototypes. And we were obsessed by getting spring water. We had to have spring water in our cans. So we rented a large van from London, and we drove all the way over to a place called Radnor, which is in Powys and in Wales. And we filled up this IBC tank of, it had 1,000 litres in it, and drove it all the way back to London, to this small bottling site in Tottenham. And overnight, they put something in it which was meant to have cooled the water down, but actually had this flavouring in, so that the whole thing got contaminated and we couldn't use it. On the surface, that doesn't sound like, oh, that's classic. That's those things go
How far
wrong.
in, just to give the time, how far into the journey is this point?
This is very early on. So this is us like, you've got a vat of water. You want to put some fruit in it.
Right, okay. Yeah. Super early days. Yeah.
And it was like, we knew it was spring water, wonky fruit and bubbles. So those sorts of things. And then the guy was really difficult, and he was a bit of a cowboy, the guy in Tottenham who was doing the bottling. And we spent quite a lot of money with him, and we were doing it off. We didn't have very much money for this sort of stage. So I remember we went and had a drink afterwards. This is probably after 4 or 5 times of it failing, of trying to get our sparkling product in a can. And I remember we were in North London somewhere, and we went and had a drink, and we were like, yeah, this is pretty shit. But that for me was like, I love looking back at that, because that's proper sort of DNA stuff, and like going through those types of things has definitely made us as a leaders and as a brand stronger too.
What do you mean by proper DNA stuff? I like that a lot.
So it's just the roots of the business, where the richness of the brand comes from. And those, like, off the back of that, we were like, okay, well, we've got to find someone more professional who actually knows how to make soft drinks. So we went and then met this guy called Philip Ashurst, who had written 3 books on making soft drinks. We went and met him on the side of the motorway in Anglesey, because he'd retired.
Why the side of the motorway?
Well, he was over in Anglesey. He'd retired.
Right.
He was about 86 or something. So we had to go quite close to where he was.
Right.
But then he unlocked these sort of things that allowed us to then upscale and manufacture properly. And he introduced us to the people that make our wonky fruit extracts still to this day. And so it was off the back of those experiences in Tottenham of dealing with those people that meant that we had to take a step back to then realize, we've got to speak to, the right people who know their stuff. So for me, that's, and I think we put out an Instagram then, and we documented it. It's like us with our, like that, with the manufacturing site, and people really love that. And it was a big, bringing people along the journey before we've launched was a big thing for us, for our marketing as well. So
I love that these these moments and these pictures. You almost wish you could. You did take pictures of them, that have this delicious DNA and richness in them that you kind of want them on the wall here. Do you know what I mean? To really bring that kind of that hustle culture alive. What I've always wanted to try and understand is there was a very obviously last week I interviewed William Kendall, which was great. Yeah, he's a big fan of you. He was saying that, and we were talking about how at Corson there was this kind of very entrepreneurial buzz there. There was you and Jack, Harry Turpin from Savourist, Dan, who went on to do numerous things. Corson of obviously the kind of powerhouse food entrepreneurs in that. It feels like there was this bubbling thing in there. What's the moment you and Alex say to each other, right, we're gonna go and get out this, I always call it the slipstream, get out the slipstream and push ourselves. Like, talk to me about the sort of gestation period of the brand.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Honestly, means the absolute world to me. I'd be so grateful for a small favour, please. It is so hard growing a YouTube channel. It is so bloody hard. If you please enjoy these videos, just click the subscribe button. More subscribers equals bigger guests equals better conversations, and hopefully you can learn more as you build your food and drink brand. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm, big fan of Corsten and William Kendall and Mark Palmer. They're very inspiring entrepreneurs, being involved in Column Garden Soup, Green and Blacks, and now Corsten Press. And there's no doubt that we got inspiration from those individuals. It's a very well-run business and it's a very well-loved brand. And really enjoyed our time there. I think for me, that was a stepping stone. I always wanted to start my own thing after university. I come from a farming background and I've always wanted to be involved in food and drink. I think it's probably being close to the crops at home, but didn't want to go down that traditional farming route. So after university, I wanted to get some experience in sales and marketing. And I went and spoke to William. And that's when he had just got involved with Corsten Press. And Dan Broughton was working upstairs by himself and joined Dan, the sales team there. So we had a great time, and that's when I met Alex also.
Right.
And it was, we were both obsessed with different trends that were going on, especially in the drinks space. So I remember we used to bring in like bottles of water with our infusions from the night before, and we would be like, I've got cucumber and mint, in like one of those bottles. Chili bottles. And it's like, well, can you imagine getting some of the goodness from the fruit or the vegetables, but none of the sugar? And that's not what Dash is now. There's no nutritional benefit in Dash except for hydration. But that's where the idea sort of came from. And we both were from farming backgrounds. So I'm from an arable farm in Shropshire, Alex from West Sussex. And so we knew that there was an issue with food waste. And so that's also when we started thinking about if we could use fruit that others have said no to infuse our water with. So there was a period of time where we were scheming in the weekends and in the evenings. And then we had about 18 months after we left Corsten Press, we launched into Selfridges.
I want to talk about as I said, this gestation, or as you said, this scheming period, because I think a lot of people listening to this, they don't realize, they don't see that the actual idea that gets moving isn't the idea it started as. Or there's tweaked, and it's wonky till you get to that kind of very American way of saying it's like product market fit, man. But so the game plan was healthy, getting the nutritional value from the fruit into the can.
Yeah.
How did it go kind of skew with? What were those kind of not stumbling points, but those moments of, again, right, back to the drawing board change.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite simple, really, and that's the beauty of Dash. But yeah, so it started off like that, and then we quickly realised it was a simple product. So you'd often see cucumber spirals in a large vat of water in hotels or restaurants or pubs. And we were like, right, well, if you can cool that down and carbonate it, you've got a pretty banging tasting drink there. So we would have our large vats of water, do our infusions, and then test out in parks in London. And we did that over several different weekends. And that's when we had another moment where people were like, this is really refreshing. This is healthy. It doesn't have any sugar or sweetener. And it was resoundingly positive. Like, would you have this as a soft drink? Is this something that you would buy? Like, what are you drinking at the moment? What are the issues with that? We'd been in the soft drinks industry. We'd seen that it's just full of sugar and artificial sweeteners. And at that point, we then looked over to the US. We're quite proud, actually. We didn't actually know what was going on over there. People may believe us, might not believe us.
Yeah.
But we then looked over at the US and saw that there was this incredible seltzer category, which is flavored sparkling water with no sugar or sweetener. And people like the LaCroix brand, which was created in California, really took off in sort of 2006, 2007. So that gave us, again, like another confidence booster, that this sort of category and product, might have a chance of get going in the UK, and no one else was doing it in the UK. I think Ugly Water was doing something in a PET bottle, which was flat. So that was another moment where we were like, okay, if it's working in the US, and those trends tend to start in the US, especially around healthy food, then it's got a chance of coming over to the UK. So it was great. It was great timing. And the product didn't change too much. We decided pretty quickly that we weren't going to be able to draw the nutritional benefit out of a fruit or veg without it costing less than 12 quid a can. And we were up for creating a large, soft drinks business.
And then you go because I think it's super. What I love about this is even the brands that we're going to get onto today now, 2023, like you're in Australia, but just knowing that you were hustling, going around parks in the summertime with vats, is just super reassuring. Did you, was it called Dash when you're going to the parks? Because I listened to a podcast, and I think Alex said like he'd written down a load of names.
Yeah.
What were some of the other names if it wasn't Dash for you to remember?
Yeah, I love that naming process. Like we just had 3 columns. I think one was like descriptive, one was to do like with provenance, and one was like to do with us as individuals. So we would just list the different names, and Dash came under the descriptive column. So I was looking at it the other day.
At the sheet?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
We had some awful names.
Go on.
We were on Splendid Water for a while, which sort of tastes I sort of think of those sort of sweetener sachets that you get that you put in your coffee, or so I'm glad that we didn't. I think we've got lucky with Dash. It's descriptive, it's short, it's memorable, and I think that has been played a big part with our brand, which has been fantastic. So we were Splendid Water for a bit, and then we showed it to a few other people, and Dash was sort of highlighted. I mean, then getting it trademarked we over-invested in time and money into getting that trademark in the right category. And we spent quite a lot of money on that, which I'm really glad that we did. But I remember the Kardashians in America, and we had all sorts of different issues. But I think it's important to have that equity locked down. So any advice to new starters, once you're happy with a name, go straight to a trademark lawyer and make sure that that's available. And it's affordable to lock that off within your sort of class. I think soft drinks, our class is 32, and within that, Dash was available, or we had to speak to one other brand who'd done something in it before. But yeah, we were told early on, lock that down.
And you then say kind of the next step on that journey is winning Selfridges. I remember the buzz I got. I remember from Manny Life, I went into the Selfridges food hall with loads of little mini pots of peanut butter, like waiting for the buyer to pop down. Yeah. At the time, I was like, oh my God, I'm absolutely buzzing. Like, this is amazing. What's the feeling in here as you get that listing? And well, from there, how did you go from base camp to stage 2? If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, with our experience at Corson, so we knew
what the hill was kind of thing.
Because we, there's no secret, like the cans Corson business, we were involved, from the start. So we had an understanding of how wholesale works and how the route to market. So we were quite lucky in that. And we had our beacon accounts, and Selfridges was one of them. Alex had done an incredible job at bringing her along the journey, to make sure that when we were ready to launch, they were going to take it. I mean, Selfridges are always looking for new things, but it's hard to get in their ear and make sure that you're able to present your amazing product to them.
How did you get in their ear? Or how did Alex get in there?
Well, it's all of those things that you'll know. It's about doing what's needed to tenacity, but getting the right balance between persistence and charm, and communicating in a way that isn't annoying, but also you're giving, the facts that they need to have confidence in your brand. There's a great story with Alex in Whole Foods. We didn't get Whole Foods for quite a long time, and obviously that's one of the places that you'd want to get. Yeah. And they're a great customer of ours today, and we sell lots of Dash in there. But Alex, I think 3 days consistently had put himself outside the door of Selfridges, Whole Foods, High Street, Kensington at sort of 6 a.m. And then on the third day, being the last 2 days being sort of told to go away by the receptionist, he managed to have a word with the buyer, and they were just doing a Valentine's activation. And we were at that moment, we were launching our raspberry flavour, and she gave us a shot through, Alex's persistence of being there at 6 o'clock every morning for 3 days in a row. And those are the sorts of things that you do need to do to get into these accounts. That might not be the right way today, but there will be ways in which you can, get creative to get in front of them.
What is there any other creative things you've done to get listings or investors?
I think it's all a bit of an art, isn't it? I think what I'd say with investors, because we've got some amazing investors, and we've always wanted to bring on investors who are going to add value. So the Sit Smith guys, Beavertown, Logan, James Watt from Brewdog. So we wanted to aim high and get the best possible people.
So I didn't even know. That's mad. I didn't even know. I've done a lot of research. I didn't even fucking know that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and Fairfax. So how we did that is, I think, like all things, it's getting an introduction from the right person.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to sort of take a sort of step back and just being a bit more strategic in the way. So if I wanted to get through to you and you're super busy, then I would try and influence someone who you know and respect. So, and then get an introduction through them, just little things like that. And then I mean, on a much smaller scale, but if what I reply to is when someone does consistently email me. So all of those things, and they're saying that the right things that are interesting to me, because you get a lot of emails, but if someone says something interesting about Dash that I find interesting from, say, if they're looking for like a marketing opportunity, whether it's an agency who's trying to get in touch. But if they do, you know, get under the skin of the brand a little bit and look at it in a slightly different guise, which I find interesting, then I'm going to respond. So it's the same, you know, with investors. I've loved what you've done with your previous investment at X. I really like how that brand to grow, and we'd like to, you know, do something similar. I was put in touch with you by yada, yada, yada. And then you can get a coffee. You should be able to get a coffee.
One of the questions I get asked all the time is, how do you get guests on the podcast?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've got like 970 Instagram followers, but the guests to actual follower ratios, and it's basically that. I know if someone knows, so for example, William, that came through doing a talk at Corson through Mark.
Yes.
There's always the warm introductions always works. But then the second thing, and I genuinely believe this, 20 minutes of prep increases your chance of a meeting by 200%. 200%, because the amount of people who will just send a blanket cold email, if you just do 20 minutes, it's not even a lunch break.
Yeah.
The chance of conversion are mad.
Yes.
And I think it's reassuring that you kind of do a similar thing. Talk about how you got hold of Logan then, and what did you say to him? Because Beavertown are one of my favourite brands. I was actually going to wear one of their t-shirts today. But yeah, how did you get hold of him? What did you say to him? Delighted to announce the extension of our partnership with the wonderful Billy and Paul from Mackenzie Jones. But even more exciting, they have just launched a brand new brand as part of Mackenzie Jones called MKJ Ignite. MKJ Ignite is a recruitment firm which specialises full shebang, focus entirely on challenge brand space. They work with some incredible brands: Lucky Saint, Good Rays, Purdy and Fig, Hunter and Gather, and Real Superfoods. They can support with your hiring needs across all levels, top to bottom, junior entry-level jobs, all the way through up to MD and CEO level. So if you're looking for a field sales stomper, a sales wizard, an ops guru, a supply chain sensei, you name it, MKJ Ignite can help you out. And look, if you're looking to wet your whistle, ignite your curiosity, then check out the poddy we recorded with them back in July, laden with wisdom, all about like do's and don'ts of hiring and like how to create the perfect job description. You will love it. Guys, are you ready? There is gonna be some absolutely, totally, brilliantly bonkers next level madness coming your way today. Are you ready to take your brand to a whole new stratosphere for free? Imagine connecting your product to a digital world through a simple smartphone scan. You know the drill, scan it, bish bash bosh, you're away. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the magic of the new GS1 powered QR codes. These next generation barcodes act as a gateway to a world of endless possibilities. They connect your product's unique identity to multiple online sources of enriched real-time content. Why on planet Earth should you be getting your mitts on these GS1 powered QR codes? Well, look, very, very simple, mate. GS1 will help you drive revenue, upsell and cross-sell your amazing products, boost your bottom line. Yes, please. Where do I sign? Enhance customer engagement. Look, delight your customers with dynamic content that captivates and keeps them coming back for more. Please, sir, can I have some more? Yes, you can. Comply with regulations. Look, you want to be building your brand. You don't want to be knee-deep, wading through a deep river of legislation, aggravation. These barcodes allow you to stay ahead of the curve. Look, don't allow this beautiful boat of boundless opportunity to sail away into the molting sunset. Be on that boat. Join GS1's UK's free pilot program today. Yes, it's completely free. There will be a link in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it was another introduction. I think that Logan was sort of, was at a point where he was looking at opportunities. So again, it's around another thing, important thing is timing and doing your research around that. Because say, Logan might have had a moment where he's spending a little less time running Beavertown and is looking for businesses and brands that he can see that he's created a whole load of value through his brand, and he's looking for other brands that are going to do the same. So he's always on, looking for brands that might be in different categories, but have got the similar sort of setup to where he can sort of add value. But I can't remember the particular detail on the approach. I mean, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago now.
You talked about we were very cognizant about bringing people in who were kind of add to the business, value add to the business.
Yes.
One of the questions, like things I love to explore, is I think there's some things you can only understand. You can't really get it from a business degree. You can't really get it from a business book. You can only get it through osmosis by being around someone.
Yeah.
What are some of the principles? And we can go through James Watt, Logan, and who was the other one you mentioned?
Sipsmith guys.
Sipsmith, Fairfax from Sipsmith.
Yeah.
What are they? If you could boil it down to one principle from each, what do you think that would be? That's really kind of had this huge shift in your way of thinking.
Yeah. I think James Watt's incredibly, and like what an entrepreneur. I think he's like a marketing genius in terms of PR, and has got an amazing sort of problem-solving brain, and will look at things very differently to most people. You know, you'll go in and he'll have his large piece of paper and be like, what are the 3 things that are keeping you up at night? And you'll work through those things with him. And like, without sort of going into, I don't want too much detail, but he's been hugely beneficial for us, because the introductions that he's able to do are fantastic for us as a drinks company. He's in the good books of lots of different people, whether that's distributors, retailers. Brewdog's been a hugely successful brand. So if he's able to give you an introduction to someone high up at a retailer, that's going to have weight. But as you know, that's just the start. It's never...
Why do you think he uses big white sheets of paper?
Well, he's just a very creative guy, so he likes to sort of draw and write things down very, very large. But yeah, I've never really met someone as creative as him, and like a huge passion for entrepreneurship and business.
And then
Logan's been less involved. We did a really fun collaboration, a hard seltzer with Beavertown, which was just so cool.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
So we did. We were able to go and make that with their incredible team at their brewery. I think, like, you know, you only have to look at their brand world to realize like where there's the strength of that world is just so recognizable, isn't it? The cartoons and the what they've created there, and then in terms of quality and taste, it's just such an amazing brand.
Brand world's something I haven't thought about, but it's so. One of the questions I ask a lot is like, what is a brand? But it's like, what's a brand world? And I think you're so right. It's so much more than packaging and a great tasting product that you can get on these outer layers, which is like culture. I think that's what good brands are. If you go to great brands, it's actually a world. It's a bigger thing. It's something you can't really put your hands on. There's like, for example, I'm a Tottenham fan. My dad's got season ticket Spurs. They've got their brewery in the thing. In the stadium. And there's just a palpable energy and vibrancy, whether it's on the mats. Like, what would you say is your definition of a brand? First question.
Good.
And then we'll get on to the brand world, because I think that pushes at the periphery of this. Yeah.
So in terms of brand, I think for me it's like a feeling. What do you feel when you see that brand? And ultimately, a brand is something to attach to a product for people to purchase or whatever it might be. But I like to see brands as like almost people.
That's Williams.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're always like growing. You're always maturing. You have to feed it. You have to do everything to keep it keep it going. But when I see my, you know, some favorite brands, that they sort of speak to me.
What are your favorite brands?
I'm quite into my like fashion. There's a brand which is in Marylebone called Margaret Howe. She's an incredible designer that does menswear and females, and it's just like this amazing sort of balance between like clothes that I love and just everything about it. So that's a brand I've been thinking about quite a lot. Not that there's too much I can sort of tell you about it, but just like incredible attention to detail. And then in terms of, say, food and drink, I mean, for us, I mean, I love like these classic, like, you know, the Innocents, the Fever Trees, the Brewdogs, you know, these top tier food and drinks companies that are made here in the UK that have gone on to be global brands. So when we were creating Dash, when we were speaking with our designers, I think that was such an important exercise. And like you could put Sipsmith alongside that. So you try and take qualities from each of them. So Fever Tree, it might be around the quality of the liquid and how much they care about quality, and this beautiful like premium brand that's very simple with some clever marketing. Innocence, like for me, Innocent, and people must say this the whole time, is like the OG. I think how they do, and what we try and aspire at Dash is like do things well, like all the way around. So a bit of an all-rounder. And Innocent managed to do that, but at a level which...
When you say all the way around? Well,
it might be to like culture or marketing or sales, or, you know, how you treat people and the environment, that, you know, your PR, you're not just known for like one thing. I'd like Dash to be known as like a business that does good in all areas rather than just one area. And I think Innocent have done that like so well. Yeah. Like the culture that they've created, how they really care about the environment, the quality of products, the clever marketing, the tone of voice. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So when we, you know, were creating Dash, you know, the story of Sipsmith, I mean, how incredible is that? How they've started the gin renaissance in London again, and changed the law for, you know, gin distilleries to happen. And then that beautiful brand and making it all in West London, and that whole brand world, I think really speaks to me. So the romantic story with Sipsmith, the quality of Fever Tree, the PR and marketing of Brewdog, the design of the bottle of Fiji water that makes you feel particularly special. So all of those sort of things we would work with our designers about and talk about when creating Dash, which is a really important exercise.
Yeah. And what I love is that another theme for this podcast is creativity is you pull at this is what Tom Drake was saying yesterday with his dishes, is you pull at all these different restaurants and experiences you've been at. You pull them all together and then you mish and mash them into your own thing.
Yes.
I genuinely thought that the sort of definition of creativity, and we're going to explore how to have faith in creativity because it's delicious, was coming up with something completely from scratch and put it out the ether, whereas actually it's always an amalgamation of different things, and it's how you interpretate those as things and kind of spin it out onto the world. One thing, when I wrote a piece about this, is you haven't rebranded, which is mad. Because I think everyone has that gestation period. Was like, right, we'll take it to market. Yeah. So what were you saying to the designer as we kind of talked about almost the bigger world piece of these inspirations, these stories? What did you say to the designer to come up with that? Because the branding is so eye-gorgingly gorgeous and catching, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks. We're really proud of our packaging. Yeah. I think it's, you know, we had the name and the can, which we took to the designers. I think what they've done with the brush stroke, the dash marks, again, really adds to our brand world and makes them look like beautiful on shelf, and really attractive to our target, audience who would want them in their fridge. So the design process, I mean, again, this sort of, it comes back to like, perhaps, I think maybe Alex's character of his attention to detail, but we spoke to about 12 to 14 different agencies, and ranging from, bottom to the very top. And it was a very thorough process. And the agency who ended up going with, were too busy. We had to get, I think.
Who'd you go with?
They're called Horse Studio. They're quite sort of under the radar, but
yeah,
they were both creative directors at Pearl Fisher, and we were one of their first brands.
Pearl Fisher's, is that a big one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I should know that.
Yeah. And we actually had to get 3 reference letters to people who were writing to them to say, these guys, might have a chance. You should work with them. And they don't advertise. They don't have a website. They're just incredible designers, and a lot more than that. And we work with them very closely to this day. They do all sorts of, they do our ATL campaigns. They do a lot. So, and they were just people that we connected with most, who understood our story most. It was like 3 simple ingredients: water, bubbles, wonky fruit. Like the provenance of where the fruit was coming, the story of the wonky fruit, the farming background, the freshness, the cleanness of the product. And then they went away and came up with 4 different ideas. And one of them was like what you'll see today. And I remember I just kicked Alex, or he kicked me. And we were like, fuck, this is it. Like, this is exactly what we needed. Because before that, you're like, oh, so many things have got to go right for us to have a chance. Because we knew it was going to be hard. But when you have that like design that is in your mind, which was, amalgamation of all these different things, and it lands, and you're like, yeah, right, we might have a chance here.
Yeah, what an amazing, what does that feel like here?
Yeah, it was, I remember it so well. And I remember like they gave these cardboard like cutouts, which I've still got somewhere. And I was just like elated, because that was like a big stepping stone in the journey, and will be forever grateful to Horse Studio who came up with. I think they literally, to create the dash marks, they get their paint brushes out, and they'll make all of the different dash marks by hand, which is just beautifully curated.
I want to talk about sacrifice and to get your brand going.
Yeah.
I think, what are some of the hard sacrifices you've had to make to get here today? We're in this gorgeous office in central London.
Yeah. Look, I think firstly, we've been incredibly fortunate on the journey. I've loved it. And I feel very, very lucky to be in this position, to have now, 25 amazing people all pulling in the same direction. And sometimes walk in now and can't really believe it, and have those moments where everyone's really behind it and the brand sort of going places. But as I said, there are sacrifices that need to be made. I think when people say it's hard in food and drink to break through, I think drinks is hard. I think it really is one of the hardest categories to break through.
Because
it's the end goal is potentially the most lucrative in drinks, because basically you can go really big with drinks, which is not the case in some categories. Say, what's a good example? But do you know what I mean? If you break through, then the opportunity.
Well, you can have a drink literally everywhere.
Yeah.
You can have a drink.
I mean, you can have this of 6 different times of the day if you wanted, and that's quite a lot of people do. So it's about the size of the business that you can create. So that's what's really exciting about drinks. Like it's unlimited of the possibility. You can go and do it in Australia. You could go and you could move it pretty easily, but it's so competitive. You have the multinationals who dominate. So whether that's Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Danone, Nestle, with all these like incredible legacy brands that own the supermarket shelf. So finding your way through that is really hard, and that's what we're still doing now.
What were the moments? And I know we're outside looking in, or internet, you'll think you haven't broken through, but a lot of people listening to this will think you have broken through. I think you've broken through. You know, in Australia, smashing it in the UK. What were those moments where you sort of thought, right, this is beginning to be something?
Bonne, our beloved sponsor, are helping build the fastest growing challenger food and drink brands. Look, if you're a small brand just starting out and you need your first indie stockist, your first 100 stockists to wholesale, Bonne are the platform to categorically speed that up. But if you're a big brand wanting to get bigger, Bonne are also insane. They make field sales marble smooth, silky slick. They're just epic. Ollie's been on this podcast twice actually. They saw a 29% uplift in sales when using Bonne to check major malt listings availability. Insane. 29% uplift by downloading an app. Insane. Lucky Saint, my boy Aaron Duff, who's coming on this podcast in a couple of weeks, he uses it to manage a team of 30 people, and they've, Lucky Saint, have unlocked 500 draft listings by using Bonne. Look, you've got to get involved with this stuff. It's absolutely insane, and it will categorically change your life. It's just the sickest platform. I use it all the time at Islands. Hi guys, super quick one. So excited. Look, for years I've been badgering on about Hungry, the podcast. You're probably bored to death. Thanks for putting up with me. But Hungry is also an agency, and we look after one amazing brand called Islands Chocolate. We've had a great time over the year. We've won listings at a load of wholesalers. We've won Milk and More. We've got our first grocery listing coming very soon, which is very sick. But what I'm thrilled to announce is Hungry is merging with HC Consulting. My boy Harry Clark and his wonderful team, he's an absolute G. They do brand strategy, new business and account management. But why I really love working with Harry and why we've got on so well over the last couple of months is Harry was actually the founder of the boozy isolate brand Pops. So he's been in the trenches, he's grafted his face off, he's had the sleepless nights, he's had the turmoil, he's had the triumph, he knows what it is to be a founder, he is a founder. And he's got a proven track record in grocery and out of home. Holy moly dips, the gut stuff, Savile drinks, Remio gelato. So if you're a brand and you're stuck, you're looking for like new business help, you're looking to scale, drop us a message, we'd love to chat. Thank you so much. Back to the old episode.
Yeah, I think it's to do with like how many drinks you're selling in the supermarket per store per week. Like that's
It was your first retail listing?
In grocery, it was Sainsbury's. But yeah, we're now with, Tesco's, Ocado, Waitrose, Asda. So if we've got Co-op, we've got a pretty good distribution. But it's the hurdle rates in drinks, for instance. So you're always concerned about, rate of sale. So when you're given more distribution within a supermarket, for me, that's pretty special because they're like, you're working.
I remember you guys being in the meal deal in Sainsbury's. What's so hard about getting into it? Like, how do you get back in? Why did you get kicked out of it? How did you get back into it? Like, what happened with that? 'Cause I think it's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's quite relevant actually because we're doing lots of good things at Dash, but perhaps nailing the meal deal isn't something that we have managed to completely do. And becoming a really big soft drinks business in the UK, I think a meal deal is obviously a big part of that. And you could go like, we've just done a big project and there's lots of things driving the meal deal. But say if you to take a step back, so we talked about drinks being competitive, but those chillers at front of store are like new level.
Proper real estate. Yeah.
It is. And it's 95% controlled by, multinationals. 40% might be Coca-Cola, 30% might be yada yada Britvic, whatever. So Dash is consumed. We're an amazing take-home product. People like to buy us in bulk and have at home. But also we're obviously a drink that's perfect at lunchtime.
Yeah.
So it should work, because people are looking for something healthy. They're looking for something refreshing to have, you know, with their drinks. But say one example why perhaps we're struggling is if you look at, and the meal deal, what an amazing thing. It's like unique to the UK. It's incredible value, 3-4 quid.
Is it not? I didn't realise it was unique to the UK.
Yeah,
I just assumed it would be. Yeah.
Because it's so popular. And so what people try to do when they're shopping the meal deal is try to get the most value for their money.
Right.
So you'll often find that people might have a smoothie, which is $2.70, or they might have a large.
Is this like, this is proven, this is so interesting.
Yeah.
This is proven,
Yeah.
Sweet, yeah. So people, okay.
So, or they might have an energy drink that costs, you know, or these large bottles of plastic that 500 ml of Coca-Cola. And that we're not going to, so Dash would be at the bottom end of the price point. So say if Dash is like £1.10 or £1.20, we're in the bottom 10% of the products. So people won't jump to us because they want to get the most value. I think I heard from someone that the smartest like commercial decision that Coca-Cola had made in the last 10 years was creating that 500 ml PET plastic bottle.
That's what I had when I walked in, the enemy.
Yeah. So if you take that, the absolute devil.
Yeah. We're going to talk about talk why this is the devil shortly, but yeah. It's fine.
So this is I'll probably get a call from Coca-Cola, but say that you get charged for 170, you've got a can that might be.
This is
110. No, what? Yeah, £1.10.
No, but in terms of the size,
330 ml. That's right, 500.
500. Okay. Yeah.
So if you think about that, so the Coca-Cola can will be 90p, and that'll be 170. But that plastic bottle will be a lot cheaper to make than a can. It just is, than aluminium. So what Coca-Cola are doing there is they're charging £1.70 for a product that's actually cheaper to make than their can. So that's where the margin is. We would never go into plastic, ever. I think most of the team would walk out, completely disagree with it, and you can't recycle it properly after 3 or 4 times. And we think aluminium is the best format to be in. So it gives us lots of dilemmas, and be looking forward to sharing with you our thing that we're launching in a few weeks' time to make the meal deal work in the UK.
So this probably when's your thing launching?
It launched in January.
In January, this will probably go out after that.
Okay, cool.
If we can talk about it then.
Yeah. So what we're
just because but if that's. I've got about 14 episodes before this will go live, so we can actually get this to launch around January time. Then hopefully some other retailers get a deal.
No, exactly. And what we're doing, and I'm happy if this is going to be released after January, but
we'll get this to go live once. Once you've released
so we're creating a big dash. So what we're doing is we're creating a 500 ml can of Dash, which will increase the value of the product and hopefully be a better proposition for people. But it's super cool, like big chunky cans, because people, Dash people just nail it.
So interesting how you're...
So it's just...
That costs you a lot of money to make though?
No. It's obviously a bit more, but the value, you charge more.
And then the shopper... Okay, so everyone going into the meal deal is looking for the best way to, I think at £4 now meal deals, aren't they? But to get to maximise that £4.
Yeah, they like gamify it.
That's mad. And then in terms of the hurdle rate, are they higher in the meal deal? Or
I'm not that close to I've been involved in the sort of the NPD and the strategy behind the project, but I haven't been involved in sales for a while, so I wouldn't know the hurdle rates. But what we're trying to do is increase that significantly. and we'll be launching with large retailers. Or we have launched them in retailers as we speak.
We'll make sure this goes. I mean, that's amazing. And what, getting back to the have faith in creativity.
Yeah.
It just as I was saying, is I think people think creativity is this sales and marketing thing, but it's not. It's like, okay, let's look at this problem.
Yeah.
Really pull at it, tweet. Okay, why is that 500 ml the Diet Coke bottle in my hand? Like, how do we solve this? Delicious. And I want to talk about Australia. How did that come about? It's quite a vague question. But it's just
it's quite an unusual
and quite an early move, if I'm right in saying. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, there's lots of different reasons why we launched in Australia. The category was at a similar position, so there's opportunity to sort of grab it. So say in the US, this is a really like established, mature market where there are maybe 100 different brands that are doing something similar to Dash. So there is a similar sort of journey. There's opportunity to get distribution. The weather, so it's warmer on the whole over there, which lends well to our drinks, which tend to sell a lot more when it's warmer outside for that refreshing sort of cold drink moment. They're big into like sustainability. So the wonky fruit thing is really striking a chord over there. So we get all of our wonky fruit from Australia, from all of the 5 different flavors. They all come from Australia. There was an opportunity as well. An investor has a very large soft drinks company over there. So we were able to speak with the right people. He really believed that there was this big opportunity over there. And they're also very health conscious, the Aussies. These sort of trends, they love like health and well-being, and looking after themselves. It was amazing being in Sydney and how everyone's up at 5:30 in the morning and going to sleep. You have your dinner at 6, and people really take that sort of health to a new level over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it so what year did you go into Oz, and like what's the thoughts when you're getting on the plane over there? Like
it was all during COVID actually. So Alex and the international team, we've been sort of dipping our toe in the water in the wholesale market over there. So we were shipping from here originally to sort of test the water. And we were getting some good sort of traction within the wholesale channel. And then we had this opportunity to launch with Woolworths, I think it was. And for us to make it work, we had to make it locally. So
is that because it was so expensive to get it over there?
Yeah, and then it's just sort of the whole sustainability thing.
It's not sustainable, is it? If you find thousands of miles. Yeah.
So we took the plunge, and this was all during COVID. So everything was over Zoom. It was pretty crazy. I remember having to get up at 3:30 in the morning to like see the color of the cans through Zoom for like 3 nights in a row to make sure that they were the right colors. And there's just so many of these like crazy moments of like setting up a business over there, which we were all
mental.
We were all involved in sourcing the wonky fruit, speaking to all of the different suppliers, and we did it. There were definitely some barriers to entry, but we managed to get over.
What were some of those barriers?
I think like we couldn't get the right size can. The pricing wasn't as sharp as we wanted, or we got let down by a manufacturer. All of those sorts of things that we didn't expect. It's always a bit more expensive to do manufacturing over there. The labor costs are a lot higher than they are in Europe. It's obviously an island, so like getting things to the island, whether it's raw materials, is always a bit more expensive. So that's something. But no, we've got a really exciting Australian business now. We've had 2 people live who
So I've known, she's amazing.
Yeah.
She must have been in for 6 months.
Yeah, 5, 6. She was our second. And then another girl called Katie, we told, has taken up a job in Australia as well, and building a really strong team over there. So it's exciting, opportunity. But it definitely has, it's not plain sailing, that's for sure.
Yeah. What have been the sort of unforeseen challenges building or keeping that culture when you're so far away? Like, do you guys fly over there? Like, what?
Well, Alex is actually there at the moment. And we have a head of sales called Renato, who's, so Alex is over there. Elle, who's one of our brand managers, is going to spend a couple of weeks there in a few days. So there's a lot of work that gets done here in the UK for the Australian business. Yeah. And it's difficult. Like the people over there have to be more entrepreneurial. They have to get involved. They have to go they have to go sampling. They have to, order tote bags and go and get cardboard boxes and do deliveries themselves. Yeah. So it's just taking it back.
And how do you, because as we were talking about, is you did it more the traditional way here with kind of yourself, your brand builder accounts, wholesale, then into Sainsbury's, blah, blah, blah. There you've gone straight into national distribution, if I'm right in saying.
Yeah, into large
retailers.
Grocery, yeah.
How's that been different? Like, what have been the challenges within that? Because it's almost like you've almost done it the other way around in Australia, which is kind of mad.
Yeah, it really is. And the way that we built the business here was very traditional. We concentrated on coffee shops, farm shop and delis, specialty stores, and built up the brand equity that way. Like, we'd much prefer someone to first try a dash in a trendy coffee shop in Shoreditch rather than a meal deal in a, Tesco. Yeah. So the equity of the brand is there. We got the right people talking about it online. So Instagram was huge for us, gifting. So alongside getting it into the right distributors, into the right shops, which was creating our perfect dash moment, we were also getting these very cool people to talk about dash, and because dash is, lots of people like it, looks good in their fridge, are happy to take samples and put it up on their stories. So we built the brand very organically. So when we did get into the larger distribution, some people, knew about the brand and were buying it. Whereas in Australia, there's no brand awareness, and you're put into 2,000 stores. Obviously the packaging and promotions and all of the on-trade marketing, you can help with that to bring people into brand, but it's just, it's harder and perhaps a bit more expensive to build the brand awareness. We've had to do marketing activity that, we're only just doing now in the UK, but we're doing in Australia straight away.
Didn't you do Melbourne Fashion Week?
We sponsored the Melbourne Fashion show.
Yeah. So, because I read someone on LinkedIn, I think you said you were kind of anti these big shows. I think one of the posts you wrote, but you said your perspective has changed on that.
Yeah. I think sponsorship's quite
sponsorship. Yeah, that was it. So how did your opinion change on sponsorship from
I think I just sort of have been opened up to these larger sort of marketing activities and what they can actually do. I think we've always been quite frugal here in the UK, and we've always said there's no point doing lots of big marketing until we've got the product there on shelf for people to buy, which, which is sort of 101, Well,
that's what Giles was saying yesterday. Yeah. It's
there's no
don't do an ATL campaign if there's no
you can't go and buy it.
Yeah.
It's a very risky game if you're going the other way around. If you're looking for attention for then the distribution to come, So with that distribution, we're in most supermarkets, in Australia. So if people are interested in the brand, they can go and get us pretty readily. So doing larger ATL campaigns in Melbourne and Sydney means that's got, people then might go and bump into it in Woolworths. It's more, I think I always got told when it was a lady called Zoe Zambikas, who I don't know if you've ever met, you should speak to her actually. She's insane. She was introduced to us by the Sipsmith guys. She's a brand strategist. And
what's her background?
She was at Eat Big Fish, the branding consultancy. But she was marketing director at Sipsmith for a while. I'd love to speak to her. And she actually helped us with all of our values and brand strategy. But I couldn't talk more highly about Zoe. And I think it was, when you're like above like an open oven, like one of those old school ovens, and you've got water and you like flick it on and it goes like that. That's what's happening when you like spend your money on an ATL campaign. Like if you don't have anything to capture it, so it's just like dispersing and your money's just like gone straight away. Like couldn't be quicker way to spend your money. So we wouldn't do that. We've only just started doing above the line seriously here in London, and we're 6 years in. Whereas in Australia, we're doing activity like that, and we're sponsoring big events, being the soft drinks sponsor, which is quite ridiculous, really. But these sort of fashion shows, and it's such a great way to entertain people, like buyers or influencers. Get them to come along. It's just sort of building out your brand.
Goes back to what you were saying. You want to be good in all aspects.
Yeah.
And it's like doing one thing. How does that one thing could have a snowball effect to 1,000 other things?
Yeah.
I remember someone always, my old mentor always used to say that the value of Whole Foods, getting Whole Foods listing isn't just the Whole Foods, it's the marketing you'll get off the back of it, because anyone who's coming to lunch trade show will pop into Whole Foods and Selfridges as their shop window.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I am so excited. It feels like Hungary is finally swimming in the big leagues. I can't believe this. It's absolutely mental. But delighted to announce that Big Fish, yes, Big Fish, are partner of the podcast. Perry's been on the podcast 3 times. Listeners absolutely love it. Some of our most downloaded and cherished episodes of all time. But Big Fish are behind literally so many brands in your cupboard, in your weekly shop. Charlie Bigham, Year Valley, Tyrrell's, Clipper Tea, Goo, Rana. I mean, mate, the list is longer than the River Nile. But they also share risk and invest in brands that they really believe are a force for good. They're brands that they believe are going to be the next big thing, like Howder, the snack that gives back. But even more exciting news, Big Fish want to speak to the next wave of small challenger food and drink brands that are destined for big things, the raconteurs, the movers, shakers, buccaneering visionaries. So look, if you want to speak to Big Fish and just have a chat, get your brand in front of them, then drop me a message. My mate Louis from Local Beer, amazing beer, was in their office, aka La Fish Bowl, last week, chatting to Perry, Freddie and the Big Fish crew. So drop me a message if you would like to speak to them.
So we were talking about Australia and ATL campaigns. Your ATL campaign, again, back to creativity and getting lots of people, the wonky fruit thing, because it got cancelled by the TFL. Genius.
Yeah.
Absolute genius. How do you measure it? I know nothing about ATL campaigns. How do you measure it, and how do you actually do it to drive shoppers to store? Because I think a lot of brands can do it too early without the distribution there.
Yeah, because it's quite like cool, isn't it? To have
it's a cool thing to do.
It is, like, as a founder, you're like, but just waiting, I would say, is probably the key to that, because it's going back to that oven thing with all that money just fizzling away. But I think it's a good example actually of Gio, who's head of brand here. When we did our first ATL campaign, which was the previous summer to this, we took over one of the tube. You know, when you go down, there's like those smaller posters. You go down the escalator, and we had just our beautiful wonky fruit taking over the whole escalator. I think it was like Wandsworth Common or something like that. And one of the fruit on the poster was this aubergine.
Yeah.
Which TfL banned because they thought it was too obscene for
It looks quite like a phallus. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And like this is not like, we didn't know that this was going to happen, and we were like, this is interesting. And actually our PR agency, I won't say who it was, were like, wow, that could be quite interesting, but let's not really worry about that. We were like, no, this is interesting. And I remember Gio was like, we need to jump on this. And we did. And that went viral for us. And the coverage that we got off the back of that was definitely way more than the media that we spent on the ATL campaign. So a great way of, being creative and getting more value.
When you said jump it and pour gasoline on it to make the thing go up like wildfire, like what were you actually doing? So you see it in the TfL cancel it. How do you pour gasoline on it?
Yeah. Well, we created a press release which was like too wonky for TfL.
Yeah.
So we got the PR agency to get their arse in gear and get behind this.
Yeah.
And did a big media push, and then it got picked up by like the Sun, the Daily Mail, and then off the back of that, we like had a big poster and went down like too wonky for TfL, like into the underground, and like just kept on creating these pieces of content which were like funny, like aftermaths, like very reactive marketing. And it just summed up the brand, like this sort of quite cheeky, obviously draw attention people to the wonky fruit. It was just like one of these amazing moments, like in our journey that really helped, propel us in a way that brought out a lot of character in the brand. So I love that. And those golden moments don't necessarily come from, but you've got to be in it to win it. And it's like having your PR agency set up, it's having the intuition to jump on it, it's then creating the assets and the content off the back of that to then like all hands on deck, basically sat in the room and being like, how do we push this harder? Because there's
a central theme with creativity in this. And I love Rick Rubin. I don't know if you know Rick Rubin, the music producer. So he's written a book called The Creative Act.
Right.
It's a gorgeous book. He literally done everyone from like the Beastie Boys, Adele, huge guy with a huge beard, American guy.
Yeah.
And he talks about creativity as this muse, right?
Yeah.
And it's about being open to it. You can either be closed to it or open to it.
Yeah.
And these things will pop up when you don't expect them to.
Yeah.
And it's if you can jump on it,
yeah,
bang. Because I reckon you were to line up, 100 brands, maybe only 5 would pick up on that.
Yeah.
A lot of some may have been like, oh God, why did we choose that fruit? Or why did we choose that fucking aubergine? Whereas, it's really interesting that news is just like being open to it and when it happens, be ready to just pounce. I think there's a lot in that.
Yeah.
I want to talk. I know you use data of the seltzer category.
Yes.
To actually help you kind of paint the picture to Sainsbury's. I think it was, if I listened to a podcast correctly. Why do you? One of my fascinations is why some ideas work in the States but just do not work here. What do you think's happened with hard seltzer? Or like, what's your take on that category? Because this is working.
Yeah, hard seltzer. I think that. We've looked at it for sure. So
did you try and do anything with it? Or?
No. It's just sort of part of a long list of potential
and
MPD. So why do I not think? So I think for what do I think of it? So firstly, I think seltzer wasn't a thing when it came here.
As in this big seltzer. Yeah, sorry.
So no one knows what seltzer is. So in the US, you've got seltzer, which is the LaCroix and the brands like Dash. And then a hard seltzer is a development of that, which is adding alcohol. So no one knows what a seltzer is in the UK. So they don't know what a hard seltzer is. So there's like a double thing for people to understand. Whereas in the US, it's like a hard seltzer and we know what a seltzer is because we drink it every day. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm idea what salsa was. I was
Yeah.
like,
So that for me is a big thing. They're big into like light beer over there. So they're less calorific. Alcohol was already a thing. So light beer is huge in the US, whereas it's not here. They taste disgusting, but a lot of people drink light Bud Light or whatever it might be. So there was this thing like whirring of like lower calorie alcohol. So I think that's why a reason for it to sort of take off over there. I think the environment, so a lot of outdoor activities. Hard seltzer is set up for like chuck in a cool box, let's go down to the beach sort of thing. Again, California, it's an outside sort of drink. It works well in Australia actually, hard seltzer.
oh, does it?
Yeah. So
Interesting.
it's this sort of like in a park outside, which it does work in the UK. You go to a festival, it's full of hard seltzer still, but not this sort of mass. It's not become like a wine or a beer like it has in the States. It's like a thing. But I think it's pretty, I'm not a big fan of it really. It's just for people like wanting to sort of get drunk, and it's like low calorie, so it sort of works. It's not like there's no real sort of
It's really sort of slam back, isn't it? Yeah, it's a festival drink as well, I think.
yeah I mean they're great fun. I mean
yeah. It's
but they haven't worked here, and there's been so many brands.
What's the
So many brands.
what's the I think it's Ellie Goulding had a brand that
Yeah.
It's pivoted
Yeah.
to cocktails in a can.
Yeah.
Which is obviously Moth have done a sterling job with that. The in terms of kind of your mindset, I think I'd love to tap into this if that's okay, because I think it's just interesting about what drives people. What would you say kind of like, I think some founders, not all, but some founders have like a friction that drives them. What would you say your internal friction is that gets you up to, that just drives you?
What drives me? It's a good question. I do sort of think about like what I want to sort of achieve. For me, like I'm brand person. Like I want to create something that will last like the test of time. And so when I hope that we've created something with Dash, which is super simple, that's healthy, that's sustainable, those sort of like macro trends aren't going anywhere. We all want to live longer. We all want to look after the planet. And the brands is really simple. So for me, I'm not sure if it's answering your question, but for me, it's about creating something that will be around for a long time. So that's what I'm thinking about. That's what sort of gets me out of bed in the morning. And then there are other things like, which are so rewarding, is, working with really talented people. Strategy becomes way more important. The little things that you do that can make such a big difference.
Such as?
It's just, I think we've got a new chairman called David Milner. He's not new. He's been with us for nearly 2 years.
Big Fish, now one of my sponsors.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, Perry.
Yeah, he's huge fan.
Oh, he's an absolute. He did Sipsmith. Perry did. Yeah. So there, I mean that kicked off on Monday actually. But Tim told me to interview David.
Yeah,
said he's amazing.
Yeah. Well, you can get him. We can also introduce you if you'd like.
Oh, that would be brilliant. Yeah.
So David's a super successful food and drink. So he did 20 years for P&G. So he did sort of his time for a large multinational. And then his first role was CEO of Tyrrell's Crisps when they'd just been bought by private equity off the family. And then he built that to a £300 million business.
So was William Chase involved in that?
I think he was, I really don't know, but I think he was sort of involved as David was CEO, and then he did it with Lily's Kitchen, the same story, and most recently with Saint Pierre, which is the brioche business.
That was it.
Yeah,
because Perry did the time.
Yeah, they've did.
Yeah.
Because they work together, because David and Perry tend to work on projects.
Yeah.
So David is trying. It's about, for him, it's like sorting out like the big problems, like concentrate on the one thing so there might be just like 2 things that we'll concentrate on at Dash every year, and we'll work together with him on those things, which will allow us to keep pushing forward and becoming bigger for like this long-term sort of growth strategy. So one of them might be getting front of store grocery working.
That's mad. So picking 2, so doing more with less, or doing less better kind of thing.
Yeah.
What are the 2? What have been some of the 2? I know you may not say now. Yeah. But since you've worked with David, like I don't know, maybe last year, what were the 2 that you really fucking went for?
Like international is obviously really interesting for us, because you've got to try and get the balance of like focusing on your key market, but you also want to be able to grow into new markets. So I think having experience on that has been really helpful. I think, like NPD is something that we've tried, actually. We did the mixers. I don't know if you remember those.
I do remember that. Yeah. And then you had the big boys as well, didn't you?
We had the big glass bottles.
Yeah. What was the
750 ml?
Was that just as a sharing occasion kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, we sort of thought that we might be able to get it going in restaurants, but not, if you're sat with 6 people in a restaurant, you're not all going to want raspberry dash, are you? It's sort of a bit stupid. You either have still or sparkling water, and then you have your individual soft drink, your Coke or your lemonade or whatever you are. So like maybe stripping back, getting rid of that mixer last year was a big move for us. And happy to like talk about that. And that was about
let's talk about failure for a bit. I know, because it's just, I think again, a lot of people you've said a lot that you've been lucky in this. I'm sure you have, but I think don't do yourself more justice. So you've worked so hard to get here, right? And there's been failure. What's been your favorite failure?
I think the mixes was really interesting. Like, I think, like Alex and I were just like obsessed. Like, we wanted to like get into a new category because it takes so long to build in the UK because you're so much dependent on the supermarkets. So if you can get an adjacent category to start ticking, you're in a really like strong position to like continue that like rapid growth. So that was like the mindset.
So had you almost hit like a point where you could not, where the trajectory of these was beginning to sort of not plateau, but sort of slow slightly?
Yeah, I suppose we were thinking ahead. It hadn't happened, but we were thinking ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
And we wanted to do what we did for soft drinks with mixers. So create an alternative that didn't have any sugar or sweetener and tasted great. So there's slightly larger can, 200 million ml can versus the 150, which is your normal mixer. Soda, so unsweetened flavored water, which is great for like tequila and vodka and gin. It's like having a hard seltzer, like doing your own hard seltzer. So we did some really cool collaborations with like Casamigos, tequila, and all these amazing brands, which is fun from a marketing perspective because you can latch on for these like mega brands. Anyway, I suppose what the thing for us is like, actually the headspace in this is huge because as soft drinks is so massive. You're taking people from diet drinks, you're taking people from fruit carbonates, you're taking people from sparkling water, you're taking people from still flavored water. So our realization is like, we've got the number one in this like rapidly growing category. Why are we like 12th or 14th in the mixer category when we can like create this sort of like best in class brand that is like really clear on what we're trying to do and not sort of muddying the water. So and David was involved in that process. It was like, they were selling well. Like, we had listings in the supermarkets, but it was like, let's just refocus and simplify everything that we're doing, all of our marketing efforts, all of the sales team's efforts, all of the D2C. I remember like little things like the trays a different shape, and the headache that was causing for D2C operations was like ridiculous, and all the cans were pulling out. If you're speaking to a buyer at, Tesco's, and 1 minute you're talking about this, and then the next minute, you don't.
Oh God, yeah. It's just...
You're not. It's not like what we created Dash for. And it, one day when the brand is way more established, I think we would be in a position to go into different categories. But I think for the time being, when you're trying to educate people into your brand, you've got to try and keep things as simple as possible.
There's a common theme with guests, and even me. It's like there's a founders inherently have a new shiny toy syndrome baked into them. It's like part of their DNA.
Yeah.
But and which is great when you're trying to get something going off the ground, like going around the parks and stuff. But but trying to like temper that down as you scale is always going to be a paradox to kind of navigate. You said, right, you said, don't worry if you find life complicated or hard.
Yeah.
When has life been complicated or hard?
Oh, I think it's, I don't really sort of talk about it too much, but I'm sort of someone that perhaps, finds life sometimes more complicated than others. So, mental health or how you're feeling. So I think there's definitely been periods of time where it is difficult. And that's sort of what I'm talking about there. And it's being able to sort of get through, those moments. But yeah, I haven't talked about it too much.
I have that as well a lot. And to be honest, doing this podcast has been kind of an unleashing of it. 'Cause it makes, I said to you before we hit record, as founders kind of need founders. Yeah. Because I think people who are hyper-driven, who have this creative, I've always believed the other side of creativity is overthinking.
Yes.
Overthinking is creativity.
Yeah.
It's just, creativity is overthinking. It's just using it for a force for good.
Yeah.
If you just watch a music or artist, they're overthinking, re-going through the song, re-going through the lyrics. A writer with a book is overthinking, but they're doing it for a positive thing.
Yes.
But then if you look at all these rock stars and musicians, the 27 Club, which is like Jimi Hendrix, Adele, all that, like the reason their shadow, I suppose, it is the overthinking, which leads to the things. I've really struggled with those things.
Yes.
How have you're in the driving seat here, mate. So, but what have been some of those dark days and the struggles with mental health? Because again, people won't see that. They won't see that side of you with the brand.
Oh, I think, I think, Dash has been incredible for me because it's allowed, me to be creative and use some of these. I think that works well for me. I'm a big thinker. I often will overthink things. And I think that, can cause, anxiety and other things. And I think growing up, in London in your 20s when, it's a difficult time, and there's setting up a business, thinking about like your career, all of those different things, girlfriends or whatever it might be, all play like a part in that. So I think it's really helped and in a really good position. But it's about, as you say, it's like focusing your mind on the right things. And I'm now, in a position at Dash where I can really lean into those areas, which at the beginning of Dash, I was, putting invoices through from a wholesaler, you know, which is, you know, not really where my strong suit is. We're quite lucky because Alex is a phenomenal salesman and has got an economic sort of background and incredible sort of attention to detail, whereas that's not me.
So would you say you, because as I say, like, I overthink fucking everything. It's like a nightmare, and I've got a really mendacious little inner critic, which just doesn't seem to temper down.
Yeah.
So is that what it is? Is it's like overthinking and a critic, or how does it manifest?
Yeah, I think so. It's like, you know, thinking should be doing this, or that's, you know, what I should be thinking, you know, should be doing. And it's just like the cycle of the thoughts.
Should.
Yeah.
So someone said to me, two words to remove. Well, it's actually three words. So is the word should.
Yeah.
If you can, I know it's you can never really remove it from your mind, but the word should is basically unnecessary self-punishment, I think.
Yeah.
Just like you should have. So after each interview, and I'll even had this yesterday, listening back to the podcast, so you should have gone through that. That was an opening for an interesting thing. You should have done that. Should have done this. I was like, mate, what are you doing? Like, you ending up not hating yourself, but like punishing yourself for something that's actually quite good.
Yeah.
But then the flip side of that is by constantly asking yourself that question, you're constantly getting better. So it's a really tricky thing.
Yeah.
How's your relationship with Alex? Like, co-founder relationships can be tumultuous, can be amazing, can be tricky.
Yeah.
You seem to have kind of hit the ground and running quite literally, but you seem to have got a really good relationship.
Yeah.
What have been the challenges with that, and how do you kind of keep in your lanes, maybe?
Yeah, well, for me, it's ultimately around trust. Like, if you can trust each other in what you're doing, you're in a great place. Because if you're always thinking about, you know, I should be doing that, or getting involved in others' business, then that becomes really difficult. So we've learned that, you know, we have our responsibilities, and obviously we'll talk about everything that's going on in the business. But if you can have your own lane, that really helps. So that's where like our skill sets are different, which really does help. I think everyone says that when you're finding a business partner, to find someone who does something opposite, but it's obviously it works. I think coming from like a similar background, having the same sort of values, you know, farming background, I think is the way you like treat people, the way that you want to do business, I think is a great, because that for me is like, the main thing is not to fall out, you know, do you know what I mean? It's like, because you can say, oh, you've got to be different in this ways, but if it's not someone that you're going to get on with, then it's going to be really, really hard, because it's about doing things consistently over a long period of time. That's, you know, what business is about. So if you're gonna fall out,
it's so interesting, because the common narrative or advice is, you know, 1 + 1 = 3 or 5 if someone is so different. And I think that is true, but like, go further upstream, and I think you're so right. It's like, do these people actually get on, and do they have the same values? Yeah. So I think it's it can be, I think there's nothing wrong with two co-founders having similar skill sets. I think ideally you want them to be slightly different. Yeah. But I'd much rather have two founders with quite similar skill sets that really get on, albeit more closer together with the skill sets, versus two people who are just like chalk and cheese. Do you know what I mean? I personally think, because the amount of people who go and look for a co-founder who's so different to them, and it's like the brand values on there, and then you're fucked before you've even got on the pitch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think so. Unless you've got like some big support system around you, and you're like some tech startup, and you can hire lots of people. But if you're starting a food and drink brand, then if you can start off with similar value. I do think you've probably got to be doing different things, like not sort of on top of each other to sort of spread the work. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of, you know, startups go wrong is, you know, you either don't have a partner or you have a partner that doesn't work. But lots of single founders work really well. So there's lots of different ways of doing it, isn't it?
This is what I've did. This is all, it's all nuance.
Yeah.
With just back for this and more personally, with what have been some of the ways, if you have got a creative mind, that you've managed to like some of the things you put in place to help with the mental health?
I think all of the normal stuff. Like I love exercising. I try and exercise 4 or 5 times a week.
What does that look like? Is it running or?
It's in a gym in Soho, and then I also there's a big swimming pool just below us, which is amazing, YMCA, which I think swimming's like really good because he knackers you out as well.
And you literally can't think of anything.
No, it's a bit painful. You're even more in your own thoughts while you're swimming, but it's almost like a meditation because you're having to concentrate on like not concentrating to get through it.
Yeah.
Because it's so boring. So, and then I always get up early and go to bed early. I think that helps me a lot. Try not to, I drink, but I don't drink very often. I find that really helps.
Yeah.
If I'm, you know, try and just do it special occasions or on the weekend or whatever it might be. But yeah, no, I haven't really talked about it much, and it's an interesting.
I really appreciate. I'm very grateful you're being so open about it, because I think a lot of people will be listening to this podcast and they see, even I see you and Alex as these fucking superheroes, and it's like, you've built this brand here, you've got this investment, you've got Logan from Beavertown, you've got James Watt from Brewdog, you're building a brand in the US, you're collaborating with posh Victoria Beckham. But actually there is a human, not saying you're not, but there's difficulty in that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I suppose it's sort of, you're right in the thick of it, so you're sort of concerned about you know, I think one day you sort of look back on things like we're right in the thick of it at the moment. But I think it's really, really important, isn't it, to talk about this? And I think it's about just managing all of the different things to minimise the over.
Do you ever get stressed that it's all going to like what? Because again, I'll even this morning I was up at like 3 a.m. I sent my mate a text at 3 a.m. thinking about the questions I'm going to ask you. Just thinking. I was like, Matt, God, just please give me a break. But like, what sort of keeps you awake at night if you're in the thick of it? Like, yeah,
well, that's, you know, again, that goes back to your point of creativity and why, you know, you're very good to speak to or easy to speak to because you know, really do have thought about the questions. So I think that summarizes your point pretty well about, you know, by overthinking or thinking about that's doing things differently, isn't it? It's like how you're better than a guy who just sort of turns up and expects the conversation to sort of go smoothly. So yeah, I think the little things I, you know, love worrying about. So with Dash, I mean, you look at the colours of the cans, like little things will just, like the blue on that multi-pack is like way too dark, and like little things like that will really
as in which blue?
That blue there.
Right.
So that's not like right. So, and that's an old packaging. So, you know, that really sort of irritates me, and that right. So I think the attention to detail is something that, you know, we're really serious about at Dash. You know, that's something that we sort of pride ourselves on. So, and we've got lots of work to do. But I'm a pretty good sleeper, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm not up at 3 o'clock. I'm very lucky. That's something that I think is really important, isn't it? To have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I'm a 9:30 to sort of 5:30 sort of thing.
That's mad. Because again, farmers are.
Yeah.
I think farmers are always. William's a farmer.
Yeah. Dad always says this comment, which is probably not. It was early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Yeah. William Chase is a swimmer and a 4:30 a.m. riser.
Yeah.
He's suffered with mental health. Similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like he's got an obsession with creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity. Overthinking is the birthplace of creativity.
Yeah.
I just really fucking believe that. What are some of the lessons you take from farming that you apply to brand building?
Yeah. Well, farming's really interesting. It's very entrepreneurial.
And people don't think that.
No, they don't. It's an incredible, like, my dad's an amazing, you know, farmer who's at the top of, you know, his
farm?
Well, it's a traditional arable farm in Shropshire. So arable is sort of like crops rather than like animals. So we have wheat, barley, potatoes, oilseed rape. And my grandfather, before Dad, was big into, he was a big farmer as well. We actually used to be involved bakeries in Liverpool.
My mum's a Scouser.
Really?
That's jokes.
Yeah. So after that, my grandfather persuaded his dad to buy this farm in Shropshire after they'd sold the bakeries. And that's sort of how it's all started. And my little brother has just moved back home to take on the farm, which is amazing. But what have I learned from, I think there's this sort of, you have to be very resourceful as a farmer because it's tough, basically. It's, you know, making ends meet is difficult. So, you know, making sure that you're pushing everything as hard as possible, that all the accountancy is done properly, that you have to be all over your numbers, but also you have to think of ways in which you can maybe diversify or make ends meet. Is definitely lessons that I've learnt from Dad at home.
Yeah, I think the resourcefulness thing is something that's not is so entrenched. It's kind of ironically going back to your swimming thing, right?
Yeah.
Is, you know, the whole quote of "the fish doesn't know it's in water" kind of thing. Is in Challenger Brands, when you start out, you're so resourceful.
Yeah.
It's only when you get bigger and you hire someone, or maybe a dodgy guy, who isn't as resourceful, you're thinking, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You only know, a farmer doesn't know it's resourceful. It's a bit like a fish doesn't know it's in water. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
If I'm right.
It's just sort of entrenched into you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't chuck away your food. You know, you don't waste anything. You know, all of those sorts of things, because the time and the effort to go in and create that. So that, you know, I'm sure one of the reasons why we were keen to do something in food waste, obviously with the farming backgrounds, and not wanting to see that fruit go to waste.
We talked about a few more things and we'll wrap this up. I'm loving this, mate. I'm just learning so much. But we talked about brand world.
Yeah.
And me thinking out loud is, I always think there's like good brands, great brands.
Yeah.
That whole book, Jim, good to great.
Yes.
I think these great brands are the ones that create these. It's not just even great. It's this world that's bigger than there.
Yes.
What are you trying to create? Say we're sat here in 5 years' time. Like, what does Dash look like to you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've got a long way to go on this particular matter. I've actually spoken to Perry about it quite a lot.
Did you work?
No, we haven't, but we've had some good chats.
Because what I don't, sorry for interrupting. What I don't understand is I just thought they were marketing, like they're known for the sort of the
branding side.
They're way further upstream. They ask some really hard questions.
Yeah, they do. So it's about going a lot deeper into our brand world and really understanding our tone of voice and character. I think for us at the moment, we've done a good job of being this brand that maybe it's liked by a lot of people, but it is loved by people, but perhaps doesn't evoke as much emotion that as we perhaps know we can do. We see it from our like hardcore fans, but I think we've got to be a lot bolder with our communications and have like a more ownable thing. So that's...
This is what's mad. You know what we were talking about the critic getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
It's like outside of Kingdom, it's like you've just done the Melbourne Fashion Week, you've done the wonky TFL thing, and you're saying we need to be bold. It's just such a great look into the founder's mind as we need to be bolder. How do you go deeper into that tone of voice to go from liked to loved?
So I think you can't please everyone. It's the first thing you've got to realise, probably, that you've got to like, so if you're loved by some people, like really loved, then you're going to really piss off some people in my mind as well.
Yeah.
So, well, it's not completely true, but say Oatly, for example, how distinctive they've been with their communications, but the people that drink milk who live on a farm are going to fucking hate Oatly. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so, you know, and the milk industry are going to hate Oatly, or, you know, Diet Coke is hopefully going to hate us. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people that love Diet Coke might go the hard.
Come here, put blasphemous. Come here, the Diet Coke.
So it's like it's like making, like we've got, hopefully by the time this airs, we're doing some really cool sort of stunts over Christmas around like poking the bear of Diet Coke, which would be really fun.
Oh, so you're actually gonna do that?
We're gonna,
so as in, because I know we talked about like when we had our preamble when I first came here.
Yeah.
I said, oh, you're like, I'll go for you over a Diet Coke, which is why I think it's stupid that I came in and walked in with a Diet Coke.
I love it. I love it.
But so is that the game plan? Is to go after?
Well, we hate, so what they use something called aspartame in Diet Coke, which is like the WHO have just come out saying that like it's really bad for you. Basically, you're playing tricks on your body to your insulin levels. You're saying to your body it's going to get sugar, but it's not. So you're like causing issues with your hunger. You're making you feel not great. All of these things. And we really, really passionately think that aspartame is the devil. So we are going to fucking stand up to them because we've got a credible alternative that tastes great, that doesn't have any of the crap in it. And it's been too long for...
But what I mean is, are you going to go... Like, so you know, Ollie's did that thing where they did the Walkers thing, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Yeah. Are you going to overtly go after Diet Coke? Or are you going to... Is it more going to be like, we haven't got aspartame? As I say, this will go live after the...
Yeah. I think it's a fine balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's like trying to be really clever. And continuing that sort of thread. I think it won't be obvious. But hopefully it will come across in a way that's fun, that people will laugh at, and the main message will come across. But yeah, we might be pushing them a bit harder than perhaps we have previously.
That's what William was saying to me. He was saying that, Mark did it. He did the packaging, I think, for their dark, was like a really in-your-face purple.
Really?
Like Cadbury's.
Yeah.
Again, this is my should brain going right now. I was like, why the fuck didn't you ask him about that? There's a huge lawsuit that went down between Green and Blacks and Cadbury's.
Yeah.
That's my brain working right now going, you should have asked that, Dan. Yeah. But it's interesting. There's ways to poke the bear without... you can poke the bear from behind, if that's the right way of saying it, from than trying to eye gouge him, which is fascinating. Just so that's. Even the way you've taught, you know, we're going to stand up to them in a fuck you kind of. I like that. There's a lot of gravitas in the way you're speaking about going after them. In terms of what else, kind of, whether it was Perry or you've decided of this next stage of the growth. What else?
Well, for us, it's what's really interesting is as a brand, we've got lots of good things to be talking about. But the reason why someone picks up a Dash in the first place is because it hasn't got any calories in it. So this health thing is going to be a huge focus for us. We'll obviously continue to be a B Corp, to use wonky fruit, to be carbon neutral business. But all of our marketing efforts are like, you know, you should be drinking us, not them. And it's like, finally, there's a drink that you feel good about drinking. So everything as a business everything is going to be around that. And that is going to be powerful, I hope.
Yeah. And also, like, this does, I know it's not meant to be, I would say this is the healthiest thing to a Sprite. Like, it tastes way better, but it tastes pretty close.
Yeah. So, like, that's across the board. The whole business will be thinking about that, like, one thing of, like, people switching out of traditional soft drinks into Dash.
And then how do you create a really distinctive tone of voice? Because I think I said this to Perry, is like, they say, someone says packaging is a moat to start off competition. And then I always say, like, a tone of voice is it's a 10-foot brick wall with barbed wire and sniper rifles. You know, someone could come and copy this packaging. You see it happen all the time. I think Liquid Death, I saw a picture the other day. About 4 or 5 brands now look exactly the same as Liquid Death. They cannot copy the tone of voice, because I believe the tone of voice is the tether from the founder's soul to the consumer's soul.
No.
It's clandestine.
Tone of voice is something that is hard and is something that we're working on. Like, for us, you know, hopefully, like, modern, simple, clever, and it's, for us, we've got a lot of work, so it's just about sort of going deeper within that and getting the right sort of expertise. Like, social media is so important, so if you can have someone who lives and breathes your tone of voice and really gets it, you're in a pretty good place in regards to your socials, for instance. And it's hard for someone, you know, you can see it now, like, tone of voice has become the most important thing, like words in a campaign. You know, that's like the thing. It's almost more important than the copy sometimes, than the actual, like, image or whatever. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited about tone of voice and what we can do, because I sort of see it as, like, more, like, as you were saying, it's the character of the brand. It's like what people think of when they think of you. Well,
I always say, I mean, this is part, I love talking about this stuff, but I always think of the category as like the dinner party, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you could have 3 gorgeous guys or 3 gorgeous girls rock up in similar red dresses.
Yeah.
The one who's going to be remembered is the one who's making all the jokes. Yeah. Or it doesn't have to be jokes, or the one who was a bit, you know, I think tone of voice, I think people see tone of voice and they think it has to be playful and jovial. It doesn't always have to be. I think a brand like Trip's a great example of it almost being like Liv and Dan are a bit like, you know, sort of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt walking into a room, but they've got a lot of, you know, they've got their way of doing it. It doesn't have to be jovial, but I think you're so right. It's tone of voice is such a hard thing to, I mean, that's why I'm so excited to be working with Perry, because he just seems to be able to.
Yeah, he describes it really well.
How does he describe it?
Well, he's just sort of like creating these like brand surprise moments as well. So it's not necessarily about the words, but it's obviously all about the sort of the actions as well that brings out the character and the tone of the business. So these sort of surprise and delight. So Innocent were very good at it with, you know, packaging like something that the unexpected on the bottom, or that's all.
I don't know what that was. I should know that.
Well, you know how they were the first people to start using like what Perry talks about, like that fun, putting those fun sort of tone of voice on the cartons or on so I think it's something that we're developing, and it's always evolving. And it's interesting that you mentioned humor, because I think that and if it's done in your own way, can be really helpful, of getting your sort of tone of voice and your character across to people.
Well, this is what Rory Sutherland talks about, is too much purpose can make a brand boring.
Yeah.
And I interviewed the founder of Who Gives a Crap.
Yes.
Really interesting guy. And obviously his Simon is one of the founders. I think he's the kind of the guy who really built it from the ground up. And he was saying that, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, my brain was going, fucking hell, you just said something amazing. But he was like, as a brand, you've got, again, the great brands have multi-dimensions to them, a bit like a human being. Like we've discussed your sides today, like there's multiple versions to Jack. And he said too much purpose makes a brand boring. It's like the person rocking up to dinner's party only talking about whatever. But there's a way to inject your way of humour. Again, you know, if you line up 10 comedians, they've all got a different way of being funny. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with the brand.
Exactly.
In terms of, what was I going to say? In terms of, we've talked about the brand being like a human. I think the founder is a human. And I believe that the real value for someone creating a business or a brand is the journey of self-discovery, in as much as how this evolves, the brand, this evolves. What are the weaknesses you've had to constantly dig at and work at as you know, we're now in this very, you know, gorgeous office in central London?
Sorry, say that again.
So what are the weaknesses you've had to work on? So in running in parallel with as the brand's evolved, does that make sense?
Yeah. As like a business leader.
Or both.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the hardest bit, isn't it? Because, you know, we started this business when we were 25 maybe, but we were thinking about it when we were 24. So you're
so young.
Yeah. So, like it's all new. It's all new. And, you know, being able to create something that tastes good and looks good and do all of that fun stuff around the brand and sell it into a few stores is one thing, but then building out a functioning like team. I'm very lucky with Alex, and who's CEO, and he's someone that could run a business that's got 10,000 people in it, in my eyes. The way he goes about business, he's, you know, the ultimate professional, very into the detail, incredible, you know, ability to do what's needed to get the job done, and the commitment. So I'm very lucky in that sense. He's very good on the structure and the business and all of those sorts of things, amongst many other things, marketing, and can do it all. So that's been really helpful. But you have to learn on the job, and we're not perfect, and it's probably showing some of those insecurities to the team is really important. You can't just be, you know, perfect. So it's important to sort of let your guard down in certain things as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's almost vulnerable leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you do that then? Because again, the narrative, I always try to question narratives of this podcast, is, you know, the leader of all this American shit from the 70s or 80s, like, you know, gotta be the first one in, you know, like be super, almost don't show that. Like even my old man, there's none of that in his world of being vulnerable. It's like, you don't show any of that.
Yeah.
In today's world, it's different. How do you show that to the team?
Well, it's hard, isn't it? And we're probably not very good at it. But I think people respect you more if you are able to do it. admit when you're wrong, make sure that you know, spending time with the team, going for a drink or whatever it might be, or you know, when you're in meetings, I often will, you know, say, I'm not sure about this or whatever it might be. But yeah, sorry, I'm not making much sense anymore.
We'll wrap this up. Two more things, mate. But this has been brilliant. How do you have you got a dead pause or something?
No, but if we try and wrap up for 2, that would be great.
Yeah, we won't be any longer. 2 more questions then. What's one truth you staunchly believe that most people would disagree with you on?
About starting a food and drink brand.
Yeah.
So I think people might have said it quite a lot before, but I couldn't emphasize it more about over investing in like the product and the brand in the early stages. There are things that you can be scrappy with, but in terms of like the actual liquid or the food that you're creating, or the brands, those are things that you can't mess with and you can't cut corners. So it's like what we were saying about branding. The people who are selling to you, the agencies that are selling to you, they're not the ones in my eyes, the ones that you should be speaking to, the ones that are completely full and are like, you know, you've got to beg to work with. So over investing in time and money, that's not the case in all agencies, because agencies who have come much bigger would have people that are selling on their behalf or whatever it might be. But so that's something to think about. And then liquid, like that's the reason why Dash has had some success, I believe, is the liquid. So people going back to the liquid. And there's just so many products out there that don't taste as good as they should. Mm-hmm. And I think it's quite easy you speak to certain people and they say that this is the only way that you could do this. And so you're time pressured because you want to get this listing for Planet Organic or whatever it might be. Just making sure that I do think you do have one chance in food and drink, like to launch. So it's just making sure that you have given yourself like the best possible, and being really realistic with those things. Doing the taste tests, getting a group of people that really are experts in flavour, to try your product, because so often it's just something created at a kitchen table and you're like, you know, your mum's friend and your mum said it's nice.
What's people listen to this on their journey? Imagine we could tattoo a phrase or a sentence on their arm. They're starting out, they see that, they have to see that every day as they're about to try and build a brand the size of Dash and or bigger. What would it be?
I think it'd be nice to people. It would be mine. I think that's something that is so like important. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's something that I've learned is that it's all about people and relationships. Whether that's, you know, working with the right agency, that's working with the buyer, whether that's bringing on the right people into your team. And I'm no saint, that's for sure. And need to work on that constantly, but that's probably why I'd have that one on. Yeah. That's why I'd have that one on mine, because that's something that perhaps I, you know, continue to remind myself.
Is you sometimes too curt with people, or?
No, I don't. But I think it's always something that you can always do better at, to just be more mindful, to treat people the way that you'd want to be treated. And it maybe as a founder, it's quite hard. Sometimes you're busy or your mind is elsewhere, or, you know, all of those things. But I hadn't really thought about that, but maybe that's quite interesting.
Mate, absolutely love that.
Great.
Absolute
Cheers, mate.
pleasure. Thank you so much.